Prisoners of our criminal justice system weren't the only ones trying to escape the mud this weekend. Prisoners of society, trying to free their minds and emerge as enlightened spirits after attending the annual Burning Man festival, were made prisoner by 7 square miles of thick desert sludge.
Well, here's what it looks like on your feet. It's horrible. Everything is wet, everything is muddy, but all of our spirits are really high.
For more than 35 years, Burning Man has been an annual counterculture staple, kicking off with the torching of an 8-foot-tall wooden figure on a San Francisco beach in 1986 on the summer solstice. Since then, it's grown into a massive non-profit project that describes itself as a global ecosystem of artists, makers, and community organizers who co-create arts, events, and local initiatives around the world. According to its own annual Burning Man census data, the event is primarily attended by white men with college degrees in their mid-30s who make more than $100,000 a year. I know what you're thinking, and no, I'm more of a homecoming guy. Anyway, there's all kinds of stuff to do at Burning Man. You can get advice and grilled cheese sandwiches, learn the secret art of air harping, a skill that can be somehow utilized anytime, meet your Costco soulmate, take part in some champagne disco, or enjoy a naked sunset run, a naked fondue party, a naked jump rope party, some naked yoga, some naked karaoke, a naked dinosaur ride, some naked oil wrestling, or enjoy some naked bacon. There's also Your Dad Explains Quantum Physics, an entry-level intro to basics of the field that may or may not include nudity, but if it does, hopefully not include your actual dad. Burning Man is guided by 10 principles like participation, immediacy, and communal effort. And people make their way to the gathering in Nevada by RV or plane or camel or mechanical zebra. The principles also include radical self-expression and inclusion, hence attendees who sport elaborate costumes or paint their body whatever shade of alien best suits them. And for those who descend upon the semi-arid Black Rock Desert in northern Nevada, Burning Man's principles also include self-reliance, decommodification, and leaving no trace, ensuring attendees care for one another and do their best to make sure there's no evidence this guy was ever there. Burning Man's even got a pretty incredible lost and found. These photos from 2017 document hundreds of fur coats, scarves, and cell phones left behind from that year's activity. Not to mention what must have been these leftover props from Johnny Depp's stint as Willy Wonka. At the event itself, Burning Man points out, much like the outcome of the naked oil wrestling, weather can be violent and unpredictable, but the phenomenon that burners most often have to contend with upon an ancient lake bed made of alkaline gypsum and silicon dust are dust storms, which lead attendees to cover their faces in masks, bandanas, and ski equipment. And in 2018, whiteout dust conditions delayed entry to the event by about 10 hours. But an unusual late summer storm last weekend transformed this year's week-long event from a typically dry desert into a sloppy, muddy affair.
You don't expect this kind of rain, and the effect, nobody's ever seen this kind of effect in there, ever, in the history of 1988 on.
Now, rain has brought Black Rock City to a standstill in years past, like in 2014 when torrential rain and hailstorms flooded the main highway and entrance into the festival, leaving burners to kill some time in Reno, long enough to brush up on casino games before poker on the playa. But experts have attributed this year's downpour to climate change, which Wired says is increasing the amount of rain that the southwestern US is experiencing this time of year. After torrential rains on Friday, the festival closed off traffic in and out of the festival, and attendees were left to shelter in place, according to Black Rock City's superintendent.
People are trying to get out, but the roads are still pretty muddy, and there's still standing water, and so there's new roads that are forming around, and that's just people working together to get each other out of jams.
So, extinguished burners went whole hog on a pigsty of a mud pit.
So much water. We are flooded. We're gonna be stuck here at least a couple days. This is nuts.
Well, you know, I've been coming to Burning Man for 10 years now, and you got to be prepared for that. Even just the slightest bit of rain makes everything super slick. You can't ride your bicycle around. That's how most people get around out here, because the mud just cakes up on the tires, and then it just adds up. And then you walk around on your feet, you have like 5 pounds of mud on your feet.
Now, among a community of more than 70,000 people that prides itself on self-reliance, burners did their best to take care of one another.
So Burning Man has their own radio station, so they have everyday updates about road conditions. But reality, it's kind of word of mouth out here. You know, some people have Starlink satellites so they can pull up weather reports and news and whatnot. And the word just kind of spreads throughout the community.
But while some think radio and community are nice, Others think cell phone towers and functional toilets are nicer. And while an arid desert may be the perfect place for a temporary art installation, it's not ideal for a permanent 5G tower installation. And closed-off roads made it impossible for anyone to clean or empty out portable toilets. So for those who remained in and around the playa, the harsh conditions of the weekend eventually set in.
We planned on leaving right after the burn, which is Saturday night, and then it started raining on us like that night, and we were like, oh, it's fine, it's okay. Everybody was still partying, having fun. Everybody took their shoes off, started dancing in the mud. It was great. And then the reality sunk in that we couldn't leave. Like, we were stuck, basically.
Now, over the course of its history, Burning Man has had many A-list attendees. Katy Perry and Diddy, and who wouldn't want to party in the desert with the former CEO of Google? But this year's conditions, and I mean that literally with this porta potty situation, led to an early exit by some noteworthy attendees.
Well, I mean, there was a high-profile exodus by Diplo and Chris Rock, and that kind of implanted in everyone's mind, well, if the B-rate celebrities can get out, then I can get out too. The fundamental sentiment is that we're here, we're having a good time, we're taking care of each other, everyone's got to stick it out.
That's right. Famous DJ Thomas Wesley Pence, sometimes known as Diplo, is among the many who decided to hightail it out of the filthy festival. He says he walked for about 3 hours before making it into a pickup truck, along with famous comedian Chris Rock and other people who are not famous. Here's Thomas Wesley Pence.
I'm glad I made it out, but I think it's people that Burning Man, the organizers, are very prepared. It doesn't rain often. It's the first time, I think, in history it rained during the festival, but it rains sometimes, and they're prepared for this kind of situation. Everybody was having a good time. People were making mud sculptures, huge sculptures out of mud, and just kind of continuing their art. And had it, they might be there for 2 extra days, but they had a great time.
Indeed, these two who made it to the airport said the conditions weren't that big of a deal.
On a lot of the headlines, it sounds like a huge disaster and people are stranded and my friends are trying to message me if I'm okay. But in reality, it was really nice.
On the ground, things actually felt not only safe and comfortable for the vast majority of people, from my impression, but actually fun because we, we're there for our community and we all came together and made the best of it.
I think most people here were pretty just accepted it. There's no reason to get upset. Be like, okay, it's raining. That means we're going to be stuck here maybe a couple extra days. And that's just one thing you kind of have to plan for when you come to Burning Man. It's not always going to be easy. Up until Friday, we were all saying that this was probably the best weather we've had at Burning Man in a decade.
Some who didn't flee the scene right away believe the principles of Burning Man, like radical self-reliance, played out in full over the weekend.
So honestly, it's brought us closer together as a community. Lots of teamwork, lots of getting to know people on a deeper level because there's not much else to do. So it's been fine, totally fine.
But others worry that too many people abandoned this Leave No Trace event and, well, left a trace.
We're only allowed to be here because we do minimal impact to the playa. We pick up all of our mess. And, when times get rough, the burners got to stick it out. We got to do what's right and make sure that this event can exist. But people who aren't burners have shown up in mass and they only party and they're leaving their entire campsites behind, ditching their cars, their trash, their tents. And we're going to end up having to clean this up.
After waiting for the go-ahead to take off, vehicles began sludging their way out of the slick desert on Monday, the day the man was burned, while more departed on Tuesday, the final night of the festival. At least one person passed away during the entire event, though the death was not said to be related to weather. But above all else, in spite of this weekend's conditions, the big question is, will burners soon be back?
Oh, I mean, it's still a great event. I love it, and I'm definitely going back next year.
And I'll be back next year, rain or shine.
Absolutely. I'm afraid there won't be a Burning Man next year if we can't clean this up.
Next year's Burning Man takes place August 25th through September 2nd. And while events haven't been posted yet, maybe 2024 will be the year Naked Neti Pots returns to the schedule, having taken this year off. That's the nudity optional event where you clean your nose with a neti pot in the middle of the desert. Burning Man tickets start around $575.